Emir. Move an allied unit or artifact back to your hand, then play a card. So most people were trying to reuse Vesemir with this. I think a lot of sane people realize that's not really worth doing. And you're better off just like playing better cards in your deck and playing a better leader. And being a little bit less reliant on drawing the Vesemir. They still do? Not really. A lot of people either cut Vesemir or playing Vesemir decks just with other leaders. Vesemir forces you to play a lot of mediocre cards to get value out of Vesemir. And if you're trying to bounce the Vesemir, now you're also committing to a leader that just does Vesemir as long as you draw Vesemir. There's a lot of issues with the Emir variant of Witchers. It just only got 2 moles. Yeah. And then there's this guy. It was totally reworked from PTR. It now has a really weird ability. For some reason they felt they had to make this random ability. It's not the biggest deal. The difference between boosting by 3 and boosting by 4 isn't usually game deciding. When it is, it's pretty feel bad. But it's usually not. I guess the main issue is when your opponent plays like a Siri Dash, reveals a gold, and now suddenly you can't Kieranix the Siri Dash, because it does 9 instead of 8. It's been game deciding too many times. Probably. It's less egregious on Morvran than it is on, like, Arbalest, right? But yeah, for some reason this guy has 3 mulligans. The reveal synergy makes your mangonels much better than they'd otherwise be. A, it keeps them alive, and B, it lets them proc the same turn you play them. So you're basically playing a 5-for-5 engine unit. And then whatever value Morvran gives you as well. Even when we're looking at the other leaders, like Unseen Elder or Eithne, they get this on round start refresh every turn. Unseen Elder generally gets between like 4 and 6 value on the proc, and it requires you to build around it. Eithne gets 3 unless you build around it, in case you get who knows what. But Eithne, when you're building around Eithne, you're not really rewarded as much for playing into multiple rounds, because it's only 3 points generally, if you're not abusing some kind of long round thing, like trying to set up a big Scorch, trying to set up a big Wolfsbane, something like that. Eithne gets rewarded for playing just like 2 long rounds by the virtue of what the ability does. Morvran is just always good at playing 3 rounds. These extra points keep your engines alive. These extra points are extra points. Like over the course of a game, if you get to use your hero ability 3 times, that's like almost an extra card worth of value. Like every round that you play is like having an extra bad bronze. But it's even better, because not only is that like extra points, but it's keeping your mangonels alive, it's keeping your Magna Divisions alive, it's letting your Siri Dashes proc, it's stopping your opponent from killing your Siris, it's doing all this other stuff. It also procs your mangonels. Morbrand's crazy. Morbrand's like so much better than the other Nilfgaard leaders. Like, I'd play this in decks that don't have reveal cards. Just because it keeps my stuff alive. Also 3 mulligans. Yeah, all this, and it's got 3 mulligans. Morbrand's great. Jan Calvé. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and play 1. This looks... It looks stronger than it is. How do I... So, it obviously lets you do, like, cheat on actions, right? You can do 2 actions in 1 turn. You can do stuff like Calvé into Emissary, play Regis on the same turn. So you're lining up your Regis and playing it on the same turn. You can do that kind of tricky stuff that Eithne does. It just kind of requires you to roll into whatever. If you can thin to exactly 3 so you can guarantee it, I mean, that's something. It's still a one-shot leader, though, which means you're prone to getting bled. And in Nilfgaard, you're not really... You don't have the best long-round plans. That's part of what makes Morvrand so good, is that Nilfgaard already is incentivized to kind of split up the rounds just based on what their cards are. Like, playing a one-shot leader doesn't really fit into that plan. Because stuff like Mangonel incentivizes you into playing like a bunch of medium rounds. By playing a bunch of medium rounds, stuff like Ciri becomes better. Stuff like Ciri Dash becomes better. Stuff like Arbalest denying a couple of their engines so they have to set up a little bit slower becomes a lot more important. The upside of one-shot leaders is you can win down a card if you plan for it. Sure. You just have to look at the one-shot leader as another card. But the other issue with this is when you have it for round 3, by the way like the mulligan system works, and granted you only have 2 mulligans so it's not as important, you're going to end up with a bunch of garbage in your deck at the end of the game, just because that's kind of the stuff you wanted to keep in your deck. It probably matters less with a leader with 2 mulligans than a leader that has like 3 or 4. So it's not quite the same issue that you have with the new DJ. But it's not as exciting as it looks. Because what, like, you're expecting the average card in your deck. I guess you're not thinking about the average card, you're thinking about, like, the biggest amongst 3. I don't necessarily know how you would calculate that. He'd be weaker at 3 mulls. Well, I'm not saying he would be weaker, but his ability would be weaker. He'd obviously be stronger overall, but his ability would be weaker. Which, I mean, it sounds weird, but... Mulligans are so good. Mulligans are so good. I don't know. Arden with the host. Thanks, appreciate it. Hope your stream went well. And Usurper. The, yeah, 0 mulligan dude. As much as I like passive leaders, I don't know. I don't know why this has to exist. It just seems like there has to be a better way to design a leader that interacts with the opponent's leader than just disabling both leaders. Like, does it even have to be a leader? If we want cards like this, can't we just make them, like, units that your opponent can interact with, rather than a leader that... I don't know. I don't like it. I don't think it's good, but I don't like it. It just doesn't feel like great gameplay. One of the things about Gwent, and especially leaders, is that like the leaders are the one thing you can rely on always having access to, except when you're against this. Usurper should not be in base set. Maybe? He certainly feels like more of an expansion leader, if they even do expansion leaders. Why specify for the duration of the... That's true. It could just say, disable the enemy leader, and have no other text. It would be pretty intuitive as to what it meant. For example, a server could cancel round 1, then in round 2 and 3, opponent could lose the ability. Yeah, or you could have like a number of charges that disabled it for a turn. Obviously, you would have like more mulligans. Like, could you I could imagine like a 4 mulligan leader that had like 7 or 8 charges that said your opponent couldn't use their hero ability for the next turn. It's not like denying value, but you could like place the charges at certain windows to either like deny Eithne for lining things up for a turn, to save them to the end and just like deny any kind of leader finisher. I think that just leads to like more interesting gameplay at the very least. Because as it is now, like, you build these decks to be high rolling. I think every usurper that I ran into was at least playing Witchers, and most of them were playing Witchers and Roach with 0 mulls. Have to be a one-time charge to deny other leaders with one-time charges? No. Because they save the charge. They just can't use the charge that turn. But like, yeah, if you save like all 8 of your usurper charges for the last 8 turns, and your opponent hasn't used their one-shot, then yeah, you're gonna lose your ability. Just use it earlier. It just denies you from being able to save it as a finisher. You still get value out of it. In terms of entirely blind. Yeah, like, it just seems... It seems like there's both better ways to design it in terms of fun, and better ways to design it in terms of being competitive. It doesn't seem like it does anything well. Copy opponent's leader should be new ability if they want to make it fun and thematic. That's just kind of memey, though. So there's just better ways to design. Yeah. I just don't see what the card does in its current state. I don't know when I'd want to play this. Like, if this card is playable, it seems like it's indicative of a bigger problem in the game. Give him 4 mulls, only allow him to disable a leader power for 1 round. You could do that too, yeah, instead of like giving him like X charges for a turn, you could give him X charges for X rounds. It'd probably have to be 1. I don't know if that's more or less interesting than being able to split it up through multiple rounds. I'd lean towards preferring to be able to split it up through multiple rounds. Because like the idea of, I know my opponent has Eithne, they can line up a Scorch, but I can use this Usurper charge to block it and still get to play another card to bleed them an extra card. I just think it leads to kind of interesting gameplay, where like, it's sort of all or nothing when you just get to use it for a whole round. I think leaders should be able to use an alternative power, but it costs a mulligan. I don't know. I'd prefer... I don't really like talking about balancing things in terms of mulligans, because I'd much prefer they just switched out from balancing things around mulligans. I think it's just way more interesting balancing all the deck building stuff around provisions, rather than this whole, like, trying to balance a bunch, like, half of it by provisions and half of it by consistency. Mulligans are just so not granular. The difference between 2 and 3 mulligans is way more points than you might think. They won't, at least for now. I don't know, maybe. I think of all, like, the major, or at least the more major mechanical changes, I think them switching away from mulligans and onto provisions is one of the more likely ones for balancing leaders. Like, certainly they won't do it for December, but within the next, like, 6 months, I could see it. I think it's more likely that that gets changed than anything with, like, hand size limit or number of cards that you draw per round gets changed. Anyway, now that we're through the leaders, we get to see this wonderfully unplayable 12 provision gold card. Oh, Vadier. What's there to say? He's a 3 for 12. You can Avalok him. You can Zeal Potion him. He can die. Man, how sick of a trade is that? You play Vadier, no protection, your opponent just goes like, haha, Vryhead Officer. That's like Frenzied Dow levels of value. You need to run Mahakamail with this guy. You need a lot more than Mahakamail with this guy. I mean, one nice thing is that he is a Nilfgaard, and Nilfgaard does have the boosty leader. But even if you get him big, he's still melee locked. So a movement effect can still disable him. Oh, what a silly card. Yennefer's Invocation. Choose any unit or artifact in the battlefield, place it on top of its owner's deck. It's a better Karathi Heatwave. Whether I'd play Karathi Heatwave at 11, I still think the answer is no. And judging by the fact this card didn't really see any play, I feel justified in saying that. It's not even necessarily better, either. Because, like, if you try to answer a Sahil with this in round 1, your opponent's guaranteed to find the Sahil later. You play it with Kanta, but it doesn't really work. It's just so expensive. Like, what? The dream is you Yennefer's Invocation and Old Spear Tip. And then you Cantarella the Old Spear Tip. So you've paid 19 for a 25-point swing. And that's the dream, right? Yeah, I don't know. Played against someone in Arena who had this plus Heatwave plus Francesca. Whatever. Doesn't sound that good. They're definitely better cards to Francesca than Yennefer's Invocation and Heatwave. Though it obviously depends what you're doing. But like in general, I'd much rather like Ragnarug than Invocation. Vesemir, Emir... Vesemir. He had Invocation, something, play the top card. Wait, what? Oh, you put your own card on top. I get it. Yeah, no. Letho of Gullet. Remove all redraws to the enemy leader. Do we need to talk about this? We don't need to talk about this, right? We all get it. When you draw this in round 3, it's terrible. When you draw it in round 1, it's sometimes good value. But it's like a really weird type of carryover that's not even guaranteed to be good. It's good with Usurper? No, it's really not. Yeah. Vigilforts. Deploy, melee, destroy an enemy unit. Opponent summons the top unit from their deck to a random enemy row. Deploy, ranged, destroy an allied unit. Summon the top unit from your deck to a random allied row. So you're expecting the deploy to get like 7 provisions worth of value. If you're destroying an opponent's unit, you can roughly expect the top card of their deck with no deployability worth something like 3-ish points. Sometimes more, sometimes less. I'm kind of just making that number up. Which means you'd have to destroy a 10. Which doesn't seem very reliable. And when you play it on range, you can destroy an ally. If you're able to stack your Tibor and you destroy a 1, then you're kind of getting value. But mill? Yeah. Sure, you can mill with it. I mean, I've played this in mill. But, like, you're paying Geralt professional rate, right? Like, sure, you don't have to line it up, but how hard is it to line something up? A lot of the time your opponent does it for you. Joachim. Play the top non-spying unit from your deck. Boost by 8. Okay, so if you assume the average card in your deck is worth like 7 points, then you're playing this, getting effectively 4 points plus 7, which is giving you 11. You're getting pretty good rate. I think this card is honestly underplayed. Even without spy synergy. Because if we're just comparing like raw provisions at 1-to-1, which it's definitely not, especially in Nilfgaard, then the average card is 6.6. And it's definitely higher than that in an average deck. I'm underestimating how this card enables tall removal for your opponent. I mean, if you're Morvran, your opponent's tall removal is already good. Average 6 since you mull all the shit in your hand. What shit does Nilfgaard even play? It seems like all their cards are so good. Do they even play a card that's worth less than 6? But Duet makes this removal bonkers. I mean, so does using Morvran on a Ciri. But I'm still gonna do that. Recruit. Recruit with Mangonel and play as 6. Base. Engines, just play Joachim early in the round. Just don't save it for last play then. Like, you can even just, like, play this in round 1. It's just a value card. It thins. Makes your deck more reliable going into round 3. So that you use the deploy ability? Yeah, it plays, it doesn't summon. You know, Morvaran is getting worse. This card should also become a little worse. Probably? I don't know, I think this card is severely underplayed. I didn't really play this much until I was playing, like, the Pumpkin Tactic deck. But I was super impressed. I think I would even try to, like, slot this into Reveal. It's a good card and shouldn't be nerfed. Yeah, I'm just saying that people aren't respecting it as much as they should. I'm certainly not saying that it needs to be... I don't think I've said a single card had to be nerfed. And we've gone through monsters already. We've talked about Silver Witchers. That's not really an argument that I want to get into. Because it's just so subjective. Should I exclude Dalerons? I'm already not playing Dalerons in Reveal. I'm playing this new Reveal deck since day 1. Yeah. Probably Swears. Nah, you don't have to cut Swears. I mean, it's a little unfortunate if you pull it with Joachim, but it's not that big of a deal. You're still gonna have like 3 or 4 reveals by the time you decide to play Joachim. It's not the best hit, but it's not the worst hit. And sure, you can't control your top card, but the idea is that you're getting good value. Like, regardless of what you hit. So you shouldn't need to control your top card. Like, if I thought I needed to play Vico or Albert to set it up, I wouldn't be advocating this card at all. But it's the idea that this should always be getting you good value. Regardless of what you hit. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to tinker around with that a little bit more. Tibor, your opponent summons the top unit from their deck to a random enemy row. Roach and Trio make it tough. Wait, why? You're always playing them in round 1. I guess not always. It's not always in Reveal. You're generally playing them in round 1. But not always. That's true. Reveal does have enough mulligans that they can save them. We'll talk all we want since we don't know how to reveal. Yeah, sure. Again, this is more of a retrospective than going forward. Tibor, 13 for 10. I think you can assume that whatever card they're going to get is worth at least 3 points. I don't know what the actual average is for a summoned random card. I've had this be anywhere from a 12-point play to a 0-point play. So when you think about it, it's really just Gaskin. It's like a Goliath whose Death Wish always triggers. But you get more rate out of him when the Death Wish does trigger. But also you don't have Ghoul or Azrael to get additional value. So Theseus. Yeah, you can play the high roll reveal deck too. It is a thing. Combo with Cynthia, but what else? I mean, I don't think you're playing this because you want to combo it with something. You're just playing it because you want to get good raw value. Like, you can always Iroquax it out, but that's not really worth. I think you just play this when you expect, in the metagame, that summoning the top unit from your opponent's deck isn't going to be worth very many points for them. And that you want just like a big vanilla dude. Oh, speaking of Cynthia, spawn a Guardian, place it on top of the opponent's deck. I mean, it's useless in round 3. Guardian's just like a shitty 4. It's not even like... So before, with the Guardian, it used to be you played a Guardian, you put a card on top of your opponent's deck that was worth half as much as an average bronze. Now you play Cynthia, pay probably more points for this than you did before with the Guardian, and you put a card on top of their deck that's worth like a few points less than the average bronze, like maybe 2. It's like 2 points less than a good bronze. Taxes mulligans. I don't want to like completely write this card out, but I feel like I should completely write this card off. I'm not seeing it. Basically remove a mulligan from your opponent. Yeah, sort of. Guardian. I mean, I think at 2x2, it's very good. That's actually kind of scary. I don't know if I'd want a card like that in the game. I don't know, it's very different. It's a very different effect. Because A eats up twice as many mulligans, and the cards are also half as good. It just scares me. I don't know if it's necessarily too good, but it's really scary. It's with Letho for an overcosted brick. Yeah. Letho Kingslayer. Transform into a copy of another unit on the battlefield without changing power. So, bugs with Siri aside, I think every issue that I have with this card is more of an issue with Siri. Or I guess in particular Siri Dash. Both series. Both series. The bugged Siri ends of the Siri that you can actually abuse with Letho. Hope they don't change this card. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think this card's really cool. I do hope they change Siri Dash. I don't think they will, but I do hope they do. Why is this better than Zudu? Because you can copy your own unit. This guy's undercosted. Is he? I don't think anything about him is undercosted. What are you copying that this is undercosted? So when you copy Eskel, you're basically just playing a second copy of Eskel. It's a 6 for 10. That's what Eskel is. When you copy Siri Dash, you're paying an extra provision and getting an extra point. Is there anything else relevant you're copying? Gold engines are balanced around being the only ones. Not really. I mean, kind of. But Letho doesn't necessarily break that either, because it does force you into a constraint, right? You have to play both of them in the same round if you want to copy it. King Star is balanced around the fact of not finding a good target. Exactly. It's not like in the deck builder, you're saying, okay, this Letho Kingslayer is always going to be a second copy of Siri Dash. Copy some NR stuff. Yeah, that's not really reliable. Just sometimes that comes up. I think that's cool. I think that leads to more diverse gameplay. How often you can't copy something good in the CA deck? Happens pretty often. If your opponent just like kills your first Siri Dash, you're often stuck like copying a Mangonel you don't have great use for, or you just like copy something random. There's not that many good copy targets in the deck. There's definitely a drawback to playing this. Stefan Skellen. Fucking orders. Spawn and play a copy of a tactic card you played on this turn. It's a 5 for 10. When it doesn't die and you get to like replay your Commander's Horn, it's kind of sweet. Deployment card doesn't make any sense. Yeah, the issue here is just that it dies, right? When the gap is this big. Like, one of the cool things about Avalok is when Avalok dies, the trade isn't that bad. Like, A, it's hard to kill Avalok with 6. But also, when they do kill Avalok, you're only losing, like, the 2 provision to point gap. Here, you're losing, like, a whole 5. This guy can be so good if you keep him alive. Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Like, when he survives, he is actually that high impact. When you get to double Commander's Horn with Stefan Skellen, it is the nuts. The order ability is actually worth, like, 15. I don't know. I could see it being reasonable, especially if control falls out. Because the thing about control decks is that not only are control decks going to be able to kill Skellen himself, they also keep your board under control, so Commander's Horn isn't as big of a deal. No card and NR have the same problem. They just survive one turn for them being bonkers. They will fix that when they introduce armor to the game. You have more faith in them fixing things than I do. I don't think they'll fix them when they introduce armor to the game. I think they will fix it like 2 or 3 months after they introduce armor into the game. Skellen makes sense even with 2x bribery. I don't know about that. I also don't think bribery is all that good. Like, bribery is definitely a little overcosted at 8. But B, you also kind of want to do more than break even when this order survives, right? Unless you're cheating pretty significantly, it's not really worth taking the risk on playing Stefan Skellen. Leo Bonhart. I mean, he's a better Geralt, right? Not really much else to say. You'd never play Geralt, and I guess he's not a Witcher. So you can't do it with Vesemir. But still, being able to destroy a Witcher when every deck is playing Silver Witchers, it just guarantees that you're going to be able to do something with your 10 provision card, as long as you draw it early enough. Where, like, Geralt is going to be totally dead in the Square-Tail matchups, Leo's always going to at least be able to destroy a Witcher, as long as you have Last Say. I mean, it's not exciting, but it's better than 3 points for 10. Instant kill on Series 2. Yeah. It's not irrelevant in other contexts either, but it gives the deck less of a higher floor, right? At least a higher absolute floor in a matchup. Like, technically you can still play this as a 3 for 10, but you will not be doing that anywhere near as much. And it's certainly not like in some matchups it's guaranteed to just be a 3. Because in every matchup there's at least a chance that you're getting 7. Menno. Deploy ranged play tactic card from your deck. At least tactics are better than organics, right? So this pulls Royal Decree, this pulls Commander's Horn, this pulls Bribery, this pulls stuff like Assassination, it pulls Treason. And of all those cards I listed, I think like half of them are at least reasonable. I don't know, I was playing a tactic deck and I ended up cutting Menno. It just wasn't worth the brick potential. Tutors should cost less. I think I could agree with like all of these like 210 deploy gold tutors. I could see them costing like a provision or 2 less, definitely. I certainly don't see anybody playing them. So at the very least, it's safe to at least try cutting them to 9, maybe even 8. I don't know. Serret, damage an enemy by 3. If Ox is in your hand, damage it by 5 instead. Generally, you want to play the Serret before you play the Ox, so you're getting 10 for 9. This is one of the better Witchers to be playing. I just don't want them to be played. Yeah, maybe. I mean, at that point, why even have them in the game, right? I don't know, it's kind of boring. It's a card, it's value. It's one of the few faction cards that's actually better than the already kind of mediocre Unicorn Kyrannix. I don't even know if it's better. It's just like comparable. It's competitive with. Man, 9s are really bad. Kahir. Whenever an enemy receives a boost, boosts self by the same amount. People tried to make this card work early. The issue ends up being you kind of need, like, against matchups that aren't boosting their own stuff, even when your deck does what it's supposed to do and it gets a long round, then it gets to keep both Kahir and Regis Higher Vampire for the long round, it's still just not that good. Even when, like, everything goes perfect for you, you still need a good matchup. Like, I think I agree. I don't think I would want to buff it. But at the same time, it's also just not good. I think, like, this whole mechanic was just, like, kind of half thought out. I don't think they necessarily need to change Kahir, but I would like to see more support for it. Like, the thing is, you would think this deck would be really good against Big Woodland, because that deck buffs so much. The problem is that Big Woodland is so good at splitting rounds up. And you only really have two big plays in the Kahir and the Regis. I don't even think that matchup's all that much better than, like, what, maybe 70-30 in your favor? Maybe? Also, ghouls are bugged? Oh, that's funny. Make that, like, 55-45 then? Because Kahir has the other problem of you have to play it early. So if your opponent wins round one, somehow, like by whatever magic they're winning round one by, maybe you have a hand that just isn't able to compete with what they're trying to do. You have to decide whether you play your Kahir into round two, or you risk them bleeding you really deep and you're stuck with the Kahir late in the round that doesn't do anything. And if you play Kahir early, they can kind of just pass to it because it doesn't do anything, and now you're out your Kahir. So you want to win round one for last day round 3. You also want to win round 1 so you don't get bled in round 2. This deck is so reliant on having a long round 3. Because nothing in the deck does anything without a long round. You're playing a bunch of, like, 1 and 4 point golds. I think it's still going to be a part of the meta? Probably. I definitely wouldn't be surprised. It kind of depends what changes, though. Can't tell you how good it feels when they buff a unit of yours so high just before you Regis. Yeah. Yeah, and just make it a slave infantry. And now they have this 1 point gold in their hand. Deploy. Fuck. No, not. I'm talking about this archetype. Shylard. Set the power of the highest unit in your opponent's hand to 1. One thing that was mentioned that was kind of cool is when you queue against Eithne and your opponent Ithlins, sometimes you just brick their Shiru. Sometimes you just brick the Shiru. Aside from, like, targeting Scoia'tael, though, I mean, I guess it's alright against big monsters. If they have, like, Spear Tip or even, like, Goliath in their hand, you're getting pretty good value. The issue is that unless you're playing this in round 3, they can just mulligan the card. Or they'll find a window to play it where it doesn't matter. It's 9 in almost every matchup besides ST. What about Skellige? He seems really terrible against Skellige. It seems like you maybe get 8. You hit like a Burna or a Wild Boar. If it hits Siri. I don't even think most of the Croc decks are playing Siri anymore. Like, I'm with you. I don't think this card is that bad. It's just you really don't want to play him until round 3. Because he kind of is that bad if you don't play him before if you play him before round 3. Like, every time I got hit by Charlotte, I didn't really care. I think getting Longship is worth more than 4. It really depends on the situation. A lot of the time, it's not. It sort of depends if they're playing Mastercrafted Spears and if they have Wolfsbane in their hand. They usually don't need Longship to line up a Wolfsbane, but they need the Wolfsbane to line up a Boar if they don't have a Spear ticking. I mean, you can say Longship is 5 points, but you don't play that card in your deck if you're just getting 5 points out of it. You're trying to do something with it to get additional value. Frygif. Trigger the deploys of adjacent bronze soldiers. When this card is good, this card is downright unfair. With, like, slave infantries on Germain tokens, you're getting 4 points on each deploy. With... if you just have, like, 2 Arbalists next to each other, and you have a Mangonel in play, you're still getting, like, 4 points, even if you miss the, what's it called? The Joust. So Ursula needs a nerf? I don't think it needs a nerf. I think a lot of lists have been cutting it just because it's too situational. The more this card gets respected and your opponents, like, ping off your Arbalists, the more difficult it is to find value out of Frygif. It definitely... I don't think it needs a nerf. I think this card's just fine where it is. I don't even know if it's correct to play in a lot of decks. G7 to 11. I'd say, let's see. What is that? 8 plus 4, 12. I'd say use anywhere from 5 to 15. That's a pretty big range. Depending on how much your opponent respects it. 15. 2 Arbalists win both jousts, have a Mangonel in play. Are Viper Witcher soldiers? No, they're Witchers. You also buster Swears. That doesn't even matter. Swears basically says destroy target unit. Let's be real. Swears is never not enough. Bribery. Create a unit from your opponent's starting deck and then play it. So since you can't guarantee synergy, I don't know, like what? Against big woodland, you're like hoping to take their Goliath or their old spear tip or something like that. Maybe you get really lucky, high roll an Ozrel and eat something out of their graveyard. I really think this card is just a meme. It's like Garrison, but worse because you can see 3 bronzes. I don't know, there's just not much to say about it. It's just like it's a create card. If you really need the tactic, maybe, but I don't think you're gonna on average get 8 points out of this. Even there's probably better tactics to play than Bribery. Imperial Golem. Deploy, reveal top unit of your opponent's deck. damage self by its power, then shuffle it back. I've seen this be a 10 for 8. I've seen this be a 0. I think on average it's like probably like an 8 for 8. You'll reveal something that's like a 3. It's cool. It's not great. I think its only real purpose is in high roll reveal, where you try to keep it in your deck and try to high roll your Zarths. The less you actually play this card and the more you're revealing it, the better. Seer. Combos with Roach. I've seen people like throw Commander's Horn back in their deck and replay Commander's Horn with Menno. Meh. It's 10 for 8. I'll play it. Speaking of how the boost archetype seems really underwhelming, here we have a 6 for 8. What happened to Rainfarn? I think he got the worst deal of, like, any card coming over from old Gwent to new Gwent. Rainfarn used to be, like, one of the defining cards in Nilfgaard. He let you tutor your spy, which is one of the most powerful things you could do in Gwent. And now he's this. Just, like, retired to a farm. Doesn't do anything. Just chills in the deck builder. Maybe he's happy. I don't know, is he happy? Let's see. Yeah, he's pretty happy. Look at how colorful it is. He's enjoying life on the farm. I think his allergies are getting to him, though. He seems kind of sniffly. Isbell. I don't know. Is it really that big of a deal that it doesn't have truce? I get that it feels bad because it's a thing that you couldn't do before and something they were like explicitly disallowing you from doing. But is it really that big of a deal? Like, A, you have to be able to secure last play. If you don't secure last play, this card is terrible. I guess I shouldn't say terrible. You do get some level of selection. But it's not great. Like, you're certainly not getting 8 provisions worth of value when you don't have last say. And when you do have last say, you already have last say, so the card advantage is really just worth points. It's not like you're playing this in round 1 to invalidate someone's plan, right? Like, you're not... This isn't like a Silver Spy type thing. You can't flip coin around. You can't gain cards going into a round. You play it when your opponent passes before round 3. So? Is there a situation where that gets you card advantage? It enables Rot Tosser. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, it's kind of just... It's just points. And points are good, but like it's just another reward for having last say. If all also be changes, we'll see a lot less play. Yeah, probably. I don't think you actually need truce. I get why people say that this has to have truce. But like putting truce on this just makes it bad. You just play this as a way to exploit having last say. And I don't think it exploits last say in an unfair way. It just sort of feels bad because it's something you weren't able to do before. I don't know. We're kind of rambling here. False Siri. Why? Why? It's not really fun to play against. Don't want to be a salt mine. I don't really think it's all that unfun. Like, what's a card in their deck worth? You're playing this, they're drawing probably like 5 or 6 points after mulligans. They're getting 10 for 8 as long as they have last place secured. I don't think that's a problem. If anything, the games where I pass, my opponent plays like 2 more cards because they have Isbell, and then I still win the game because they just don't have enough points in all the cards they played. I think the entertainment of that balances out like any weird feel bads. I don't know. I don't even feel bad when my opponent gets ahead with Isbell. It's more of a tosser problem. Yeah, I could see that. I'm not sure I like the way tosser currently works. It feels really binary. Like, either it's really, really good, or it's a 1-point card. False Siri. So we can compare this to Frenzied Dao. And if we compare this to Frenzied Dao, we start to see how ridiculous this is. In a bad way. It doesn't even have the tag that Ida has, which like kind of makes up for it. Neither of these modes are like contextually reasonable value. Like, moving an enemy to the other row is not worth 4 points. Destroying an artifact, while it is kind of worth 4 points when it works, there's so many other ways to do it efficiently. You can just play fucking Frenzy Dao. Why would you ever... Like, I'd play Bomb Heaver before I played this. It's Frenzy Dao that's undercosted? Yeah, sure. But Frenzy Dao's still in the game. And, like, believe me, when I talked about Frenzy Dao at neutral, I had a lot of swears. It was not a PG-13 stream. But, like, even if you're comparing this to just, like, the bronzes, I'd play almost every faction's bronze removal before I played a neutral False Siri. It's that overcosted. At least with Ida, when you're not destroying an artifact, you're getting, like, a Frenzied Dao worth of value. Here, when you're not destroying an artifact, what the fuck are you doing? You're paying 4 for a movement effect. Swears. Destroy target unit. Reach 2. Best Geralt in the game. Hefty Helga. Immune order. Damage an enemy by 2. for each soldier on this row. So if you have 3 soldiers on... So the cool thing about this card, right, is you can lead the round on it if you don't have anything else proactive to do. Because it has immune. I wouldn't say rubbish. I think this card... Being able to lead a round on an immune card is cool. Yeah, the issue is there's enough stuff that kills it when you do lead the round on it. Like, Wolfsbane will kill it eventually, Archaspore kills it immediately, Uncrate Marauder kills it immediately, and all of these trades suck. Double Forktail kills it. Yeah. Like, as a card, it's cool, but the other cards that exist don't allow this to be played. People complained about this card in PTR. They nerfed it a provision. Poor dude. Treason. Force an enemy unit to damage adjacent units by its own power. For the first... what, like 3 weeks of Homecoming? I thought this card was like 10 provisions. It's really not that bad. The worst part about this card is the name swap between treason, bribery, and assassination. That leads me to have no idea which card that I'm playing when all of them are in my hand. I have played many treasons thinking they were assassinations, and assassinations thinking they were treasons. And treasons thinking they were briberies. And briberies thinking they were treasons. The current meta, you play a Rockets over this in basically every situation. Nilfgaard decks are pretty bad at dealing 1. Also, this is much better against, like, Tall Woodland. It's not hard to find, like, a 15-point treason against Tall Woodland. And in most matchups, it's very easy to just, like, target Witchers, and you get 8. I think this is better than people give it credit for. Cadaverin. Didn't even know this was still a card. Order, destroy self and all units whose power equals Cadaverin's charge count. Oh. It's Shiru. Huh. I mean, the issue is that it's an artifact, right? And you're probably not playing this with other artifacts, so all you're doing is enabling your opponent's Frenzied Dow. This card would be a lot cooler if artifact removal wasn't broken. Ox. The other half of Seret. So I've played Nilfgaard decks that played Duragare over Ox. Just because I valued the card efficiency. I don't think I'd ever play this without playing Seret. But I guess it really depends. if I just have 7 provisions exactly. But I definitely try to make room if I really wanted to lock with the extra provision for Derogere. What's the next card? K-Lock. I guess before we talk about K-Lock, I'm going to take a really quick restroom break. It's also a Witcher for Vesemir. Yeah, that's true. If you're playing the Witcher deck, you're going to be playing Ox. Just because you need to play so many Witchers for Ox to get value. But yeah, I'm going to take a quick restroom break. I'll be right back in like 2 minutes, and then we will finish up Nilfgaard, and I think we're going to have time to do whatever faction is next as well. The title still says monsters. I don't know how to spell Nilfgaard, so I'm just going to say NG. Anyway, I'll be right back in like 2 minutes. Hope you guys stick around. Yeah, so for some reason he doesn't remove Doomed, but he removes everything else. I don't think I ever saw this C play ever. Hey Dako, what's up? I don't even know what you would want to do with this. This card is underplayed. Can you explain yourself? What are you trying to do with it? Saying resilience, immunity, turn timer. Wait, he removes turn timer? There's a lot of immune stuff going on. Sure, but like now you're dealing with immune in 2 parts. You should, it's a status. Is it? I didn't think timers were a status, that there's part of an ability. Let me see. I guess let's just look. It doesn't like say anything about being a status. He also unlocks enemies. Yeah, but if you're worried about that, you're probably not playing K-Lock in your deck. I don't know, like, it's an interesting card. I just don't think you can really justify playing it. Fringilla Vigo. Reveal a random special card in your opponent's deck. Then spawn and play a copy of it. So, pretty good amount of the time. Even if this lives, it's just a 4 for 7, because your opponent just doesn't have special cards in their deck. The times your opponent does have special cards in their deck, sometimes they kill it, and sometimes, as King Narek is saying in chat, sometimes you just fucking scorch yourself. More like Fringilla Mimo. Vreamed. Boost a soldier ally and all copies of it by 2. So the idea with this card is you're playing it with slave infantries, right? So you play 1 slave infantry, you have 2 copies in place. When you play this, you're getting 8. You can go really crazy with this. You can go slave infantry, Vrygef. And that gets you 2, 4, 8 slave infantry. Or, no, 2, 4, 6 slave infantries. So when you play this, you're getting 12 additional points. You're getting 16 on your Vreamed. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen very often. And a lot of the time, you're just playing this for... Like, I played a lot of 6-point Vreames when I was playing Vreames, if I'm going to be honest. I ended up cutting this from my soldier reveal list. It just wasn't really worth it. While the ceiling's really high, the floor is also kind of low. And it seemed like things happened on the low end more than they happened on the top end. Albrick. This card was way cooler in PTR when he wasn't bad value. But now he's bad value, and I don't know why I'd ever want to play this. Like, I guess he technically helps you find stuff, but if you're Morvran, you shouldn't have too much issue finding stuff. You have enough mulligans anyway. If you're Calvé, you shouldn't have much issue finding stuff because you have your hero power. You're just like playing a 5 for 10 that gives you some selection later on. You can't even play the card next turn, you have to play it next round. And he's a really bad tempo. The best use for him is obviously like after your opponent dry passes. You get to take a round with this, tutor a card. So he got nerfed? Yeah, he got nerfed. He was... I think he was a 4 for 6 with the same effect. I know he was break even. I don't remember exactly what the rate was though. Boost by 4. Oh, it might have been that. Yeah, that sounds right. What if K-Lock removed order abilities? That'd be much more interesting. That was 7 for 7 broken. I mean, I wouldn't say it was broken. It was good. It was definitely good. Because it's a tutor too, right? Like, it guarantees that you find whatever you need. It buffs your mangonel so it doesn't die. Greetings from Spain. Greetings from the United States. But yeah, I'll work. Cantarella. Spying. Play the top card from your opponent's deck. Mill memes. People try to tell me this card is a reasonable card to just, like, play back in PTR. I said they were ridiculous. If they're trying to make that same statement, I would still say they're ridiculous. Experimental Remedy. Play a bronze unit from your opponent's graveyard. Poor Vicovaro Medic. So, there's a lot less graveyard synergy now than there was before. So disrupting your opponent's graveyard just doesn't matter as much. B, without points attached to it, it's not really that exciting to play a card that doesn't have synergy with your deck. C, this costs 1,000,000 provisions. Oh, and D, there's no strengthen effects. You're not even, like, ever getting great value. There's never going to be, like, a strengthened greatsword in their graveyard that you can steal. Poor dude. Nobody plays graveyard decks because of Xavier? No, it's not because of Xavier. What graveyard decks would you play if Xavier wasn't a card? You can say Bearmaster Bran. I think that's, like, the only like, real deck that gets shut down by Xavier. And that deck isn't even good if you remove it from the Xavier from the game. It's just too easy to play around that deck. I still wouldn't play Iced. Iced really has nothing to do with it. Or Lemons has nothing to do with Iced. Francesca's basically immune to Lemons. Most of the time you're playing your special card and using it Francesca the same turn. It's very rare your Francesca deck gets shut down by Lemons. Big Woodland. You can play around it with Big Woodland. You just save your Wispus. If you're ever in a situation where all of your big units are in the graveyards against a deck that might be playing Lemons and you have 2 ghouls in your hand, you probably fucked up. His ability needs to be changed. His ability needs to be changed if they want to explore a design space that involves heavy graveyard decks. Lippy Froth, as long as you win round 1, which that deck should always be doing, you're not losing to Lemons. You can get interacted with, like your opponent can, like, kill a Witcher, kill your Roach, Lemons you in round 1. Big Woodland loses badly to any engine-heavy deck because of safety removal options. It depends how well Big Woodland's able to break up the round. But in general, yeah. Mary said Dazbog was the best runestone. I'm glad someone in chat's actually talking about the runestone. I thought we were just going to ignore it. I'm gonna keep ignoring the runestone. If you guys wanna have a discussion about Dazbog runestone, feel free. But yeah, that's my argument about lemons. It matters in terms of it could be really bad to have in the game in the future. But right now, unless you're playing a deck that's already not very good, it's not that relevant. Traherne. This card's so hard to evaluate. On like one hand, when you get to rip a Witcher out of your opponent's deck, this card's kind of sweet. Because you get to like have some selection on what gets banished, it's definitely better than just like banishing a random card. There's certainly some amount of value there. Especially since the other two cards they draw. So like of their next draws, you get to pick two of them which they do draw. It's certainly the most playable just like mill card. But whether his ability's worth 2, I'm really not sure. You can see what you banished with Viper Witchers too. Yeah, but you don't have any selection with Viper Witchers, which makes the banish irrelevant most of the time. Oh, you mean it sets up Viper Witchers? Sure. I'm not really talking about it in context of mill, though. Like, in mill, obviously you play this card. It does exactly what you want it to do. It's the same cost as Viper Witcher. Has the same points as Viper Witcher. It's just, like, a better Viper Witcher in mill. But outside of mill, I've seen people play this and just, like, reveal. And while I feel like it doesn't actually get value often enough, it might. It's kind of hard to evaluate this. I don't know. Most of the time it's 8 for 6. I don't know about most of the time. I think best case is 8 for 6. On average, it's like some difficult to evaluate amount of carryover. And in round 3, obviously, it's just a 4 for 6 almost every time. Traherne just swears one time. Yeah, I don't know how I'm supposed to evaluate that. It's so weird. Because you have selection on what gets banished, it's like, it's better than randomly banishing a card, but you don't have perfect selection. So I'm not really sure how much more it's actually worth. Because of that selection. It's good if you mill a really key card. That's sort of the same argument people talk about with Viper Witchers that just isn't really right. This is like anywhere from like a 5-star card to a 10-star card, and I don't actually know where. I've gone back and forth on this so many times. We're gonna rate cards on stars? No, just because someone in chat. Witchers might destroy one of your... Yeah, exactly. Because Viper Witcher also digs your opponent a card deeper. Like, the card that you want to mill being on top of their deck is just as likely as the card that you want to mill being a card lower in their deck than they would have otherwise seen. So on average, Viper Witcher's banish is just a wash. But obviously, because you have selection with Traherne, it's not a wash anymore. Like, there is some amount of value because of the selection. But I'm not sure how to evaluate that, is the thing. Peter Sar Gwenlev. It's valuing a reset at 3. I mean, a reset at 3 is probably good rate. There's certainly some matchups where this card's the nuts, right? Against like any kind of ghouls, you're getting disgusting value. in like a Morvran mirror, you can reset even just like their Morvran buff, and you're getting 6 or 7 on your Peter. The issue is against like Scoia'tael. A non-zero amount of the time, this is a 3. Usually not. You're usually going to be able to like hit a damaged unit and buff it back up. But there are certainly times where this card isn't great. You're sending Vanguards. Oh, true, true. Yeah, you can find a Vanguard. Viper just hated mainly by dudes. Well, Viper just hated mainly by people with a poor understanding of math. Or people that just really don't like playing against Mill. I think those are the two schools. Mahakam Defender? No one plays Mahakam Defender. Though, yes, it is very good against Mahakam Defender. Math is hard. Math sometimes is hard. I won't disagree. Some stuff can be very unintuitive. Vanimer. Destroy a locked enemy unit. Did this get nerfed from PTR? I thought it was a 3 for 6 before. Anyway, I don't know. This card's cool. You pay 2 points to lock something, so this is sort of like 6 points to kill something. Which is pretty good rate. I don't know. The only problem is that it's a combo. You have to draw both. You have to have your lock and your Vanamar in the same round. Your opponent has to have a tall unit. Locking archetype, does it exist? Not really. Serret Ox, Alba 2X, Vanamar Slave. Yeah, that's not really an archetype. That's like barely a package. It's like the old Infiltrate Menno combo. Yeah, except there's less thinning to set it up, and Menno had 8 points on it. And Infiltrator was just a good card in your deck otherwise. And Menno never bricked, because you could always hit like your Joachim. Or deal 4 damage. Yeah. Imperial Diplomacy. Wow. It's like a worse bribery. Assassination. Wow. Damage a unit by 6. Decrease the damage by 1 for each unit adjacent to it. It's like an Alzur's Thunder, but a tactic. Wow. Slave Infantry. Transform an allied unit into Slave Infantry. This card's actually nuts. So a lot of Nilfgaard cards... Well, A, you're incentivized to play higher base power Nilfgaard cards because of reveal, so you can get max value out of your Arbalists and your recruits more often. So it looks like this card's kind of difficult to find targets for. But the thing is, all the control cards going around... I mean, even if your opponent doesn't kill stuff, if you just have an Arbalist in play, you're still getting 7 on your 5. And realistically, your opponent's going to eventually damage something to like a 2, or if they're not thinking about it, they'll damage something to a 1 and just give you a good Slave Infantry. And when you get a good Slave Infantry is a really good rate. You're just getting a 9. You should up provision cost by 1. Nah, I think this card's fine. It's just good. It's not like it's a staple in every Nilfgaard deck. Like, there's a bunch of reveal decks that don't play the Slaves package. Pro tip, you can't turn Slave... Yeah, I learned that one the hard way. You can't actually transform a damaged Slave Infantry into a healed Slave Infantry. The game will let you target it, but nothing will happen. I lost a game because of that on one of the first few days of the patch. I don't understand why Reddit hates this card so much. I really don't get it. Hey, what MMR is everybody that they're running into decks that are actually playing this? And B, why are they upset when they run into people that are playing this? You hate it because once it banished your Kahir? Does your deck thin to 0? If not, you shouldn't really care. It triggers Mangonels. It triggering Mangonels is the best part of Viper Witcher. I guess technically it being able to RNG banish Silver Witchers is the best part of Viper Witcher. But aside from that, aside from when you get really lucky and banish like a tutor target. You ever see all your... Exactly. Exactly. It's even more apparent if you think of it not as just being at the bottom of your deck, but if you think of it as being one card deeper than you would have seen otherwise. Because now you're getting to see an extra card, too, because Viper Witcher banishes a card. Because now, in all the games where it doesn't banish... Like, so imagine the card is either at the top position, or at position n-1, where n is the number of cards that you would have otherwise seen. The games where it's at n-1, which you also wouldn't see, is the same amount of the time where it's the top of your deck. Which means that it's going to dig you into the card that you want to see just as much as it banishes it from your deck. It's a weak Wild Hunt Rider. I mean, it's not the best rate. I wouldn't necessarily say it's worse than Wild Hunt Rider. As someone who has played a good number of Wild Hunt Riders and had them bricked in my hand, because my opponent just had a bigger unit and I just could never get them down ever, I have a lot of respect for not having that condition. This is certainly the easiest thinning bronze to use, right? You can just always play it, just throw it melee. It pulls the other one out of your deck, no worries, no concerns, guaranteed thinning. Where Wild Hunt Rider, I've drawn my second Wild Hunt Rider in rounds 2 and 3 after having a Rider in my opening hand more than I want to admit. It's a very awkward thinning card. The worst are Volunteers. God, what were they thinking with Volunteers? What the fuck? That card's condition's ridiculous. Good synergy with Alba Spearman. Yeah, get you 2 soldiers immediately. Why don't they boost by 1 for Spy played? Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they repurposed this away from Spies when they already didn't really have enough Spy payoffs. The only cards that synergize with Spies is Impera Brigade, right? Or Impera Enforcers. Oh. Emissary. Boost an ally by 7. So, points for points, ignoring any kind of synergy. This is a Swallow Potion, right? You're giving them 1 point, you're getting 6. However, it's a little bit better, because boosting by an additional 1 helps keeps your engines alive. There was a deck going around over the last, maybe week, which was a Reveal Spies Siri deck that was abusing the fact that it is very, very hard to kill a Siri Dash or kill a Siri in one shot after you Morvran it. So they would go like Siri Dash Morvran, it's 8 points. You expect to be able to kill it over 2 turns, and they Emissary boost it. And then it gave you the option to have like a secondary engine unit in the Impera Enforcers. And the deck played Joachim, the deck played Emissary. I don't think the deck played Willem, but it might have. I'm not entirely sure about that one. Yeah, the deck was scary. That was one of the decks that I really didn't want to queue into over the last week. Call it Retrospective now. Yeah, we decided to get real pretentious last night. And decided to call it what it actually is. Also, Emissaries disrupt some adjacent synergies. Yeah. It blocks Epidemic. It was a deck that used Emissaries to line up Regis. Yeah, that was like the first week or so. It's like the level 0 approach. The deck fell out of favor pretty quickly, though. I know, I'm very sad. I have any kind of update. I don't think it's been rejected, it's just still not accepted. Yeah, status pending review. Appointment. Boost a bronze soldier by 2. Repeat its deployability. Does this ever get good rate? You can sort of look at this as like a 2-point Letho Kingslayer that copies bronzes and triggers their deploys in a really weird way. Isn't Leo a soldier? It has to be bronze. So the only thing you're doing is like reveal bronzes and slave infantries. And none of those give great rate. I go with slave infantry. Like a 2-point slave infantry just isn't that good. A 2-point Arbalest is annoying. It procs Mangonels again. So infantry on a 1 can do it. Yeah, that's just so much work though. Out of all the factions, Ointment is the best in Nilfgaard. I don't know if I agree. I think if this said... Well, no, you still wouldn't play it in Scoia'tael if it said Elf. I think it would be... No, it'd probably still suck. It'd probably still suck. I think this card is good with exactly Arbalest. I think that's it. This card could just cost 4. It could. It could very easily just cost 4. It'd be kind of cool if it costed 4, honestly. This card is flavor text. Will it help? Who knows? Shouldn't do any harm, though, probably. Yeah, that sums up the card pretty well, actually. Nilfgaardian Knight. Boost an enemy by 2. There are no enemy units. Destroy self. I don't know why they had to nerf this card from PTR. It's not like it's particularly good. I don't know. Do we need to talk about this? I think I've seen it played against me like 2 times. And it wasn't even playing it. They weren't even playing it to play it. They were playing it for another card to reveal. Kahir? But it's not even good with Kahir! It's just 2. You're playing a 6 for 5. Another card that reveals CDPR doesn't understand how to design cards that are better going first. Could easily just survive if there are no enemies. Yeah! Like, why does it even need to have the drawback? What's scary about a 6 for 5? Have they read Archospore? Don't we have, like, this? Which is on average more than a 6 for 5? Because you win more clashes than you lose? What's the fear? This comes with removal! Why are you scared? They made almost all Nilfgaard card worse except reveal. Yeah, and they made reveal absolutely bonkers because they made a reveal leader too. I shouldn't say absolutely bonkers. They made it good. Your dad was executed for suggesting a 6 for 5 CDPR. Oh, poor guy. Pick a Varo Novice. Draw a card, place the card to your hand at the top of your deck. It's range locked for some reason. It's a 4 for 5 for some reason. It's 4 for 4 in PTR. I don't think so. I think it was... Maybe? I think it was still paying a point. But I might be wrong. This could be a 5 for 5. Like, no problem. And it would see... What, maybe slightly more play? If Fort would be playable? Yeah, I think it's like a 4 for 4. You might consider playing it. Just as like it's a card you can mulligan. It would be better for Usurper for sure. It gives a way for Usurper to actually get mulligans efficiently. You could afford to play Witchers and Roach. Make it a 4 for 4. I'm pretty sure that's safe. I don't think there's a problem with making it a 4 for 4. I don't think it becomes auto-include at 4 for 4 by any means. Are we counting the number of cards you'd buff / nerf? Well, I don't really believe in nerfing anything right now. The only thing that I'm more concerned about, like, gameplay quality than I am about power level of anything. So most of my nerfs are more like, please redesign this, rather than please nerf this. Might become better if cards were better. No, I just think... like, the way we interact with artifacts fundamentally should probably change. There should be fewer cards like Frenzy Dao and more cards like cards that don't exist right now to interact with artifacts. I really don't think that, like, fighting over card advantage cards is a healthy gameplay pattern. I don't really like cards like Siri and Siri Dash. It seems like they just invalidate more decisions. If more cards are playable, the game is more fun because we have more options. Yeah, but I'd rather... I guess I shouldn't say I'd rather buff cards than to do that. But it's kind of what I mean. I think in general, cards are kind of weak right now. I don't really see a need to nerf most things. The problem is more... there's some bad game mechanics. Or I guess some bad game patterns. Buffing cards accomplishes that. Yeah, I'm saying I guess I'm mostly arguing against nerfing stuff. Like, instead of nerfing things, I'd rather redesign things at this point. I said quite a few things need a buff. I'm arguing against nerfs, not buffs. Yeah. Dalaran Soldier. So, when you pull this card from your deck, it is possibly the best card in the game. However, on average, I think you have to waste enough mulligans on Dalaran Soldier before it gets revealed that this card isn't actually good. About to say the same thing. Yeah. I cut it from my reveal deck. And I went in with insane expectations on this card. I had the highest of hopes that Dalaran Soldier was just like the stone nuts. And the more I played it, the more I thought the card was just stone unplayable. Like, not even just like an alright card. Just like so not good on average. It's 5p. What other 5p card do I run instead? Plenty. This isn't even, like, refined. I just don't play another 5p card. I play Mangonels and Arbalists, and then I use the provisions elsewhere. For Dalaran Soldier to be more the 3 for 5, buff for 2. I don't even think that card's good. It's got the same problem without the upside. I still don't want that card in my hand ever. At least when you reveal Dalaran Soldier, you reveal the nuts. You don't get the same thinning value with Standard Bearer. And the thinning's what makes Dalaran Soldier so crazy. That card could be good. Yeah, I guess. Should we find a draw, give a small bonus from revealed? Yeah, possibly. I'd rather than just rework the whole reveal mechanic. Yeah. Didn't think this game was capable of so many followers? What do you mean? So we're not CDPR? Well, I mean, if we're in Magical Christmas Land where we get to decide that we want to make this card more like another card, can't we also say that we'd rather just change the whole mechanic? Homecoming V2? It doesn't really require Homecoming V2. Like, Homecoming was way more than just redesigning cards. Para Enforcers. Order. Damage an enemy by 2. Charge 1. Gain 1 charge whenever you play a spying unit. So, fun fact with Impera Enforcers. If for whatever reason you steal an Impera Enforcers in your Demavend deck, you can't actually use Demavend to give this charges. So really, this card is unplayable. But really, no, this card's pretty cool. Emissary is just generally a pretty good value card. Joachim, I talked about it earlier, I think Joachim's just an underrated card in general. The card tends to get good value. And as long as this survives, even without a spy, you're getting 6 for 5. And as soon as you play a spy, it's just all upside. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the spies are just good enough that they're fine on their own, and then when you have enforcers in play. Very person incredibly strong if it survives. But the thing is, even when it dies, you're not losing that much. And your Nilfgaards, you're able to keep engines alive easier than any other faction. Because you have more Varan. It's one of those 4s where its life is determined by the Arbalist roll. That's every bronze engine in the game. Mango! Maybe reveal a card. Damage a random enemy by 1. Read your previous comment. Oh. You see, I think it's a pretty big problem Gwent seems to have with balancing, is that it's just a merely mathematical game. If card A generates more points than card B, it often makes card B unplayable. Maybe it's design cards in a way this doesn't happen. Yeah. Well, the way you do that is with synergies, right? Or at least a way you can do that is with synergies. Make the game more about being able to break up the rounds to the point where your synergies get max value. That is one thing that old Gwent did pretty well, right? Purely was the word? Oh. Well, maybe you should have said that. P and M aren't even next to each other on the keyboard. How do you do that? Yeah, I don't know. There's not much to say about Mangonel. When you Mangonel with Morvan, you're getting a 5 for 5 sort of engine unit. This card's nuts. What the fuck? This card's nuts. Infiltrator. On round end, shuffle this unit into your opponent's deck. Can we all agree this is unplayable, right? I don't think I've seen this card played since BTR. Fuck this card. So if you were here yesterday for my tirade over Frenzied Dow, I'd probably have the same tirade over this card. What the fuck? Why? Why? Why does it have to be random? Why can't we just have our removal be reasonable? Damage an enemy by 2. Reveal a random unit from the deck. If yours has more power, repeat the deploy ability. So let's rephrase this in different terms. So it's deploy, gain 2 points, then reveal a random unit from both decks. If you win the reveal, instead of gaining 2 points, destroy the bronze engine on your opponent's side of the board instead. That reveal is not actually just worth 2 points. That reveal is almost always worth at least... God, how many? At least like 5 points in most matchups. It's crazy. Like you're killing Magnavisions, you're killing Mangonels sometimes, you're killing every engine that's bronze in NR. And it all comes down to this coin flip, right? If you win this coin flip, it's often you win the game. If you lose this coin flip, you're gonna get overrun by whatever engine. I assume engines see play. Some do. 2 procs for Mangonel. Yeah, that's gonna happen with anything that reveals from both decks. That's whatever. I'm not even talking about the points. I'm just talking about the variance. It's just not a 2-point reveal. The difference between 2 and 3 damage is not actually 1. It sounds like it's 1. It seems like it's 1. If you just do pure math, it's 1. But how much it actually represents is definitely more than 1. Yes, for like 10 minutes still on Arbalist. We've been on Arbalist for like less than 5 minutes. Come on. 3 minus 2 is not 1. Not when talking about damage, no. What do you think about an Infiltrator archetype sub-theme where Infiltrator is like a 3 for 4 or a 4 for 5 and puts itself on top of their deck? You get to make them draw all bricks. I mean, it depends how that works. I'm not really sure. I would have to see like what's the context of it. It could be cool. Something different. Yeah, fuck Arbalist. Get out of here. Nausicaa Brigade. Damage a boosted enemy by 3. This card was so good in PTR. How did they change this? Did it used to deal 4, or was it like base 4 before? How did this get nerfed and they didn't nerf Archaspore? 4 damage and 4p? Oh. They just did everything to it. Did people just not realize how good Archaspore was in PTR? Did somehow this card get more bad reviews than some actual ridiculous bronzes? I mean, to be fair, this was actually pretty good in PTR. It's just not really a synergy card, right? Like, when you play this to get raw value, you're missing out on, like, reveal procs. In exchange, you just get some points. It's kind of situational, too. Archaspore also has Thrive. Archaspore is absurd. Archaspore is so good. Deploy if you control an artifact, boost self by 3. Standard Bearer. Deploy, boost an ally by 2. Whenever you reveal this card, boost a random ally by 2. So, the funny thing about Standard Bearer is if you reveal Standard Bearer, you're probably losing the clash. And winning a clash is worth at least 2. First, more locks I'll play in PTR. Monster Sticks missed specifically combos, so Archaspore didn't matter much then. Sure. There's also no matchmaking either. So no one could really get a good handle on what was actually good or not. Wins clashes against Archaspore. Yeah, sure. There's a funny bug with Bearer where you reveal your opponent's Bearer in the mirror plus your opponent's board anyway. Nice. I don't know why you play this. I saw people play this card. I don't really get it. Just seems like I'd rather play... I don't know. What's a 5 that's big? I guess there just isn't one. Oh, I can play Nilf Knight. I'd rather play Nilf Knight. All but Armored Cavalry. Deploy, melee, lock, an enemy unit. So this is Diamond Iridium Shackles. Just as a unit. There's really not much to say about this card. It's literally Diamond Iridium Shackles as a unit. It's a soldier, I guess. If I could play this in an R, I'd probably play this in an R. Actually, can this be an NR card? This card would actually be sweet in NR. It's a human for Draug. It's a low provision card that I don't feel bad about playing. I really don't know how I feel about Rot Tosser. I really don't. So on one hand, this card is trash a lot of the time. On the other hand, this card gives you, like, infinite reach against decks that have any kind of tall unit in play. It's also kind of like the main reason why being able to draw cards with Isbell is so strong, because it enables your Rot Tossers. You still have the bug where if you open round 3 last play it procs. Wait, really? They fix that in every context except Rot Tosser? Rot Tosser forces the opponent to play outside the normal strategy? That's not true. I forget about Rot Tosser literally all the time, and it never matters. It's really only good after your opponent passes in round 1, expect you to not be able to take. And you just have like a really swingy Rot Tosser that they can't interact with. Or if you have double Lasse and with like Isbell, or you have card advantage or something. Trash because the opponent can easily do 1 damage. Yeah, they can like consume it with a Crone, they can play a Forktail, they can just play a small unit next to it. They can play an artifact next to it. That one's always fun. When just nothing happens. Yeah, I don't know. Alba Pikeman. Damage an enemy by the number of units on its other row. I haven't seen this card played since like the first days of Homecoming. I don't think there's really much to say about it. It requires like a sort of longer round. And even then, your opponent has to have 4 on the other row. If they're balancing their rows properly, you don't get a good Alba Pikeman until like 8 cards into the round, assuming nothing dies. Yeah. Meh. Why is this a 5 for 5? This condition is so bad. Okay, so Usurper, this card doesn't do anything with. Calvé and Morvran, or Calvé and Calvé, oh my god, Calvé and Emir, there we go, are both one-shot leaders, so you only have 1 opportunity to use Venendel Elite. And Morvran, you always want to use the same turn that you're playing an engine, so you never get to use this with Morvran either. What the fuck? And this is only a 5 for 5. Why? Slave Hunter. There are 4 more units on the opposite row. Seize the lowest enemy from that row. So at first glance, you're thinking, okay, so if they have 4 more units on the opposite row, if I'm playing spies, I can put units on their row. And then you think about it a little bit harder, and you realize that you're just putting 1s on their row, and Slave Hunter always steals the lowest. Okay. Next, you're like, okay, what if they're just playing Witchers? They go Witchers and Roach. Then you get to steal a 4. That's not bad, right? You're getting 9 for 5. But you're only going to get through that in 1 round. And you're kind of just hoping that the Roach comes out on the same row as the Witchers. And if not, it's kind of just like a shit show where you're hoping your opponent doesn't play something smaller than Witchers. There's really not that many big units that people are playing. There's a lot of small stuff. Ultimate Bamboozle card versus Witchers and Roach. I mean, it's good against them. I don't know if I'd say the Ultimate Bamboozle. I don't know. How do you justify putting this in your deck? You could be the boost spies deck. So you go... You give them a bunch of emissaries. And then you play, like, Rainfarn and Nilfgaardian Knight to buff them up so that the lowest unit got buffed. And then you steal them. Maybe Sheep deck. I mean, yeah, if you're forced to play a bunch of bronzes, then this is probably one of them that you play. But I was thinking more in terms if you want to like build around this kind of effect so that it's reliably good. How are you going to do that? I don't think the tools really exist. I think like opponent buff is probably the best you're gonna get with this. But even then, you have to be able to load up their row, because getting 4 units into a row isn't actually free. And when this is bad, God, it's... it's bad. It is bad. See this card as a 1-of in some decks, it's a bit like On-Crate Marauder, ready to suck your mullet. Well, the thing about On-Crate Marauder is that you know going into the round whether it's going to be good or not. It's a lot harder to know going into the round whether Slave Hunter is going to be good. Like, the flowchart for whether On-Crate Marauder is going to get value is just, do I have to play the first card into this round? If yes, is it a Mastercrafted Spear? Otherwise, mull. With this, it's a lot more complicated. It's like, am I going to kill some of my opponent's units? Are they going to row stack? Are they going to split the rows up? Are they going to play anything small? Am I going to be able to kill the small things so that I can try to get bigger stuff? Do they still have Witchers left? There's way more questions that you have to answer. I think there's just too many variables to know reliably whether you're going to want to mulligan this card or not. Can I draw the flowchart for Marauder? Let's see. Programs. Paint. Add. Window capture, paint. First play. Oh my god. Yes. No. Yes. Wait. Spear? Mull. Wait, it's supposed to be like diamonds. Is it? Wait. Diamonds are choices, right? Ah, we're doing it backwards. Spear, keep. We don't have first play? Keep. Marauder. Flowchart. There we go. There we go. Anyway, back to Gwent. Alchemists. Swap the power of 2 allies. So in PTR, this card was way cooler. In PTR, you could swap the power of 2 enemies. So you could do some tricky stuff with like Emir and Rot Tosser. I'm not really sure what you're doing swapping the power of allies, though. Card was never good enough to warrant a nerf. Yeah, like, it wasn't even that good. It was just kind of cute. I don't even know what it does. Is there some synergy that I'm just not getting? Probably bounce the weakened ally back with Emir. Oh, I guess that's true. You could, like, reset it, too. This card could enable the enemy buff deck. How? Swap one of the small units with a bigger one. Buff that unit, then reach. Oh. Yeah, it would like proc Kahir too. Ideally. Recruit. There's not really much to say about Recruit. It's just kind of a card you play and reveal. It procs your mangonels. Gets pretty reasonable value. Fire Scorpion. Also, not much really to say about this one. This card was so bad that I cut it from the tactics deck I was playing. Really makes you think, huh? Nausicaa Sergeant. Whenever you play a unit with deploy, lose self by 1. This is another example of just like a really good 4. When this dies, it's not the end of the world. It's just a 3. So, like, you're still getting pretty reasonable value. Your opponent used 3 points of damage to kill your 4. Like, it's technically a trade down, but it's not too severe. And when this lives, it's not hard to make this like a 7 or an 8. There's a lot of deploys you want to be playing. All bronzes you play have deploy. Well, not all. Mangonel doesn't. Siri doesn't. There's quite a few that don't. But in general, you're going to get pretty good value on Nausicaa Sergeant. You'll get at least 5 if it lives. Siri's not a bronze? Oh, sure, my bad. I misread that. Magna Division doesn't. Speaking of Magna Division, oh my god, what a card. This card's so good. This is... So it comes down as a 4 for 4. So your opponent wants to kill it. You're getting break-even value. And if they don't want to kill it, it's 1 point per turn. And sure, they could, like, move it to shut it off. But then they're using a movement effect, and you already got your 4 for 4. You probably got 5 for 5, because they can't move it the same turn you play it. Or 5 for 4. So, like, when it gets moved, you're getting good rate. When they kill it, you're getting reasonable rate. When it lives, you're getting insane rate. Anti-synergy with Roach? Sort of. You can just delay your Witchers for a few turns. As long as you wait, like, 3 turns and this gets to, like, 6, you don't really care that much if the Roach blocks it. Obviously, it's better if it doesn't. But it's not the end of the world. It's not like you're getting bad rate on your 4 provision card. You think Magna Division should be a gold? No, I love there being powerful bronzes. I think it's very good for the game. Like, more bronzes should be like this. Nilfgaard has ridiculous 4s. Yeah, and so does Monsters. Yeah, this card's definitely a competitor for best bronze. See Magna being 5 provision. Yeah, but I wouldn't want it to be. I'm happy with it being 4. Like, would the card be unplayable at 5? No, probably not. We'd still see play, most likely. But is the game better off with it at 5? I don't really think that's true either. Alba Spearman. Damage an enemy by 2, increase the damage by 1. 4 provision cards should be 6 on average. Yeah, I completely agree. The cheaper a card gets, the better its rate should be. It shouldn't be a linear relationship between provisions and points. Otherwise, the game really just becomes about drawing more of your expensive cards. Where it should be about maximizing synergy among the bad cards in your deck so you can find value out of them. Or at least in my opinion. Obviously, that's subjective. Alba Spearman. Increase the damage by 1 for each and soldier, reach 1. I don't know, this has reach 1. There's so many other good bronzes to play. Or at least bronze 4s. Like, in Nilfgaard, if you need 4s, you already have Magna Division, you already have Nausicaa Sergeant, you already have Recruit. Like, if you really need another 4, you can play Alba Spearman. But the Reach 1 kind of holds this card back, I think. It's less that it's bad and more that there's just better alternatives. Logarithmic scale. I don't know if it's necessarily logarithmic, I just know that I don't think I want it to be linear. Slave Driver. Damage enemy by 2, increase damage by 1 for each locked unit. If there was a card that was like, target a row, lock the row, cards like this would be a lot cooler. But with there not being a way to like mass lock stuff, it's tough for this to be great. I mean, it's better than Wolfpack, right? At the very least. If for whatever reason you want to play Wolfpack and Nilfgaard, you play this first. I don't know why you'd ever resort to that when you have all these other great 4s, but that could be a thing. There should be more Reach 1 cards, speaking of a battle going on in the front rows. Yeah, it does feel like Reach wasn't really explored all that well. I don't know. I'm not totally sure how I feel about it. Like, Reach 1 and Reach 2. Because Reach 2 also gives a reason to put things melee, right? This counts units locked on your side, by the way. Yeah, sure. Maybe if there was just like a 5 for 5 that said lock all units you control. Honestly, you could even like go crazy. You could make like an 8 for 8 gold. It was just like lock all units you control. It would force you to sort of build around that, because you obviously can't do that with like Mangonels, Magna Divisions, and a lot of these other like Nausicaa Sergeant type cards, because you're playing so many engines. But it would enable stuff like this, and you could design around more cards like it. Reach seems like a mechanic design for 3 rogue, right? Yeah. It does somewhat matter, but not much. Well, you could put things on range if you expect your opponent to have Reach 2 cards and force them to play them on melee. So, like, you can play to make it matter if you care about them putting things on melee. Is what I was really trying to say. Maybe Nilfgaard could have lock cards lock units on both sides. Yeah, like if the Nilfgaard faction locked a unit on both sides of the board. If we just had like a Duragare that locked one on yours and one on your opponent's, that'd be kind of cool. Or if that's what Aux did. But it just seems like there's no way to get enough locked units to where this matters. Hey look, it's Bronze Gaskin. Can we all agree that, like, Spotter has no business? Like, Spotter's Homecoming's cheat death, right? Like, are we really allowed to complain about RNG and Artifact when we have Spotter in the game? Spotter isn't very good. No, but it's very, very swingy. So I'll probably see play if Recruit gets nerfed, so you'd rather see them keep Recruit as it is right now. Yeah, I don't think Recruit's a problem at all. Recruit's totally fine. Arbalist is the fucked up one. And this one, God, it's just so high rolly. I think on average when this card is played against me, it's been like 3 or 4 points. Like, I've had this reveal a lot of ones, but I've also had it reveal quite a few Goliaths and old Spear Tips. And when that happens, you really just want to leave the game. Because you're not playing Gwent anymore. Useless against ST. I mean, I wouldn't say useless. Yeah, there's like some 3s you can reveal and you get 4 for 4. It's not great, but it gives you a reveal proc. Should be like 5 on average, which is most decks, but it's very swingy for no reason. Exactly. At least Recruit is more consistent in what you're getting. I think this is a problem, but Imperial Golem isn't. Because the best case on Imperial Golem isn't even that good. Imperial Golem gets you a 10 for 8. Spotter gets you a 14 for 4. We can agree that there's like that's not the same thing, right? But the same concept. But the magnitudes are so different. The problem with this is the variance. And when it's good, the variance on the makes it absurd. Even when you're high-rolling Imperial Golem, it's not that crazy. It's broken in the reverse direction. I mean, yeah, Imperial Golem sucks. But I'm okay with cards being bad more than I'm okay with, like, losing the game because my opponent played a Spotter and revealed my fucking Spear Tip. Like, you can choose to include a card in your deck. If a card is bad, you just won't play it. I can't choose what cards are in my opponent's deck. If my opponent decides they're just deciding to high roll people and they throw Spotters in their deck and then reveal like Spear Tip Goliath over the course of a game, I just lose. That's not a fun game. Why does this card even have to exist? What does this add to the game? Golem versus Spotter, in one case you take the risk, in the other case the opponent takes the risk. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's also not... Yeah. That's a good way of phrasing it. I think Spotter doesn't deserve this amount of discussion. Well, it's the last Nilfgaard card. So next is Northern Realms. We'll probably get through, I guess, the golds. And we'll save the bronzes for tomorrow. So we can do half of NR today, half of NR tomorrow. Yeah, that sounds good. Before we jump into NR, though, I'm going to take a quick 2-minute restroom break. I'll be right back in like 2 minutes. And we will get on to talking about a very mediocre faction filled with cards that exist and sometimes have points.